as well as the misuse. I actually, one of the first jobs I had after I graduated from college, they were still using the short form IQ test, and it was the first year that they had not used high scores to screen people out. On the theory that people that were too intelligent and college graduates more generally wouldn't stay very long. So it turned out that my colleagues all came in at the same time. We all left within 2 years. They probably were actually not. But, you know, they were still screening out, particularly for people with bad math abilities. It was a pretty good. So back to crystallized and fluid. The don't hold test and the Wexler scale had a couple of characteristics that people noted that kind of predates the Horn and Cattell thing. What they did is they kind of gave it more meaning and got there through a different route. But one thing is almost all of the tests that showed these strong cross-sectional age effects were time tests rather than untimed tests. And they were tests where not only did you have to get the answer right, but you either had a limited amount of time to try to get the right answer, and or the old days anyway, the tester was sitting with the stopwatch and timed how long it took you, and the time was part of the calculation for your score. So the whole slowing time thing raises its head. They were also mostly, a lot of them were kind of visual demand tasks and or kind of performance tasks. In fact, most of the don't hold tasks, the WACE itself is divided into like a verbal IQ score and performance IQ score. Or performance is like you're putting puzzle pieces together and you're duplicating designs on blocks and some things like that. And this is all under timing. And so they all have this kind of manipulation and kind of visual component. Not all of them, but most of them. And so people were already kind of trying to figure out, I mean, the speed thing had already been around, it was kind of obvious, as you can see in the second of the 1930s papers. And then the visual thing, people kind of wrestled with for a long time. And then Cattell was one of the early factor analysis guys, and was kind of pioneering this whole idea that more tests really ought to come from like getting as many items or scales together as you can and looking for latent variables in the sense that we talked about last week. So you see how these items or these tests correlate with one another, and you go through these mathematical procedures and you define underlying factors or underlying latent variables, and then you see what kind of sense these latent variables make. And in this domain, Cattell, what Horn and Cattell came up with was there's this set of somewhat differently determined intelligence tests that they saw as kind of focusing around crystallized abilities. Again, crystallized in the sense that they didn't change much over time, and also that conceptually they would seem to tap things that you would expect that people would get and hold on to, so that people shouldn't just sort of spontaneously lose vocabulary. You sort of expect that once you really have learned your vocabulary, it's going to stay with you. And then like general information stuff, that there's at least a large core of presumably commonly shared information, general information about the world that you expect people to hang on to. So, like you know who the first president of the United States was, and you know what the capital of France is. And it's kind of general information that should be there so that you can test it on lots of people. And so, and you expect that it's not just going to kind of fall out of people's heads. It's well learned, it's crystallized, and it'll stay with you. And fluid, that Horn and Cattell's thinking would capture is meant to capture both the idea that things that you might have a sense of being more likely to change over time. So kind of in some ways a nicer way of saying don't hold. And also things that have more of a process activity kind of dimension to them. So you think that knowing stuff is crystallized, but learning stuff is a process. And so the ability to learn, you might think, would be more fluid, although what you know as a result of having learned will be crystallized. The active ability to solve problems, the ability to reason, the ability to manipulate the spatial environment, all these things that have sort of more of a process element to it. It also does turn out that most of them turn out to be time tables.
Do any modern IQ tests really look at any of these differences, or even contain crystallized intelligence style assessments? Because it seems like that just has to do with information and memory.
Real intelligence tests would, in the sense that you would have tests of short-term memory, you would have some tests of new wording, you would have these kind of visual arrangement kind of problem-solving kinds of things. And the primary mental abilities test, the shy stuff, the spatial ability, spatial rotation, and inferential reasoning would be things that we presume to be fluid. Math is a little bit tricky, and it actually kind of points out that one of the math tends to load a little bit, quite a bit on both factors. And so, actually, depending on who you're reading, and there's some other things that kind of do this as well. Some things sort of like shift back and forth.
You don't use math.
Huh?
You don't use math the same way you use verbal. I mean, every day you're talking.
Well, it kind
Like
of...
math skills, if you want change back from something, okay, you're using it, but you use the verbal skills more regularly, unless you're a mathematician.
Well, there's kind of a crystallized component in the sense that you're like knowing the basic rules, like knowing your times tables,
Yeah.
or knowing that 2 + 2 = 4. It's sort of like a crystallized informational component. And then doing the reading problems, and
Isn't that crystallized?
probably doing algebra, or being able to rotate analytic geometry figures in your head. Imagining what matrix algebra looks like in your head.
Wouldn't like the GRE, wouldn't that be sort of crystallized because it's based on your knowledge that you have? Like your knowledge of vocabulary, your knowledge of math. And you can...
Vocabulary, certainly. Math, actually, the way it's measured in the GRE, probably mostly.
Because I had to resurrect when I took the GRE my math because I hadn't used it, but I had, and then I did all these practice tests to resurrect. I mean, and it was there somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's both because you have to memorize like how you do problems, but then you also have to figure out which formulas you're going to use based on. So I think that would kind of be fluid, like problem solving as you go. But you have the...
For me, it was more like a recollection of those formulas than a new knowledge of the formulas. You know what I mean?
But I
Like,
mean, like,
But that's your review process.
Yeah.
It's not the actual use of it.
no.
Because
So is the review process fluid then? Oh, or crystallized? Because I'm reviewing it.
your ability to do the review process is fluid.
I see. Okay.
The fact that it didn't take you as long to do the review as it took you to learn it the first time
Priceless.
is priceless. And it was also evidence of an underlying crystallized knowledge that was there, even though, at least in a savings kind of form.
Does the GRE, I don't think the GRE even purports itself as being an intelligence test. It's just a sort of,
Well,
it's